We should be ready for it now.
All right, attempt number 358.
Finally! Maybe.
All right, hey everybody, welcome to Armed Republic Radio. I'm your host, Dave Laird with Dynamic Combative Solutions.
And I'm your host, Adam Lynch, here with Defenders USA and Crosswind Precision.
So this is our first episode, and we think we have everything working properly. We appreciate your patience, but let's get down to the nitty-gritty details. So, Adam, I'm sure some of your folks don't know who I am. So my name is David Laird. I'm the owner of Dynamic Combative Solutions. Let's see, I've been shooting since the age of 6. Every male member of my family served in the military going back prior to 1776.
Wow.
I currently have 7 kids. I've got 5 boys, 2 girls. My oldest is 22, and my youngest is about to turn 15. I've got 2 serving in the military, 2 going to college, 2 in high school, and I've got 1 that's running around like a chicken with its head cut off. He's actually my nephew, but he adopted me a couple years ago. So I've been raising him since he was 11. But anyway, started martial arts at the age of 10. I started off with the American Taekwondo Association here in Mesa, Arizona. I got my first degree black belt when I was 12, my second degree when I was 14, my third degree when I was 16. Then I started studying Tai Chi till the age of 18 under Master Lim. And then I joined the military, served 4 years in the 82nd Airborne Division. When I got out, I volunteered 4 years in the Maricopa County Sheriff's Department, served 2 years overseas as a civilian contractor in Baghdad, Mosul, Iraq. And what got me into firearms training was I came home, got heavily involved in church security. They requested training. And a friend of mine bought a range, and that really blew up and expanded. I managed the training at that facility. They built 2 additional facilities, and at our peak, about 2019, February 2019, we had 3 facilities. We were doing 30 classes a week at 3 separate locations with 30 instructors, and we were pretty close to $1 million in sales. And that's when my friend unexpectedly passed away. I started my own company, which is DCS Training. And it's been wildly successful even through COVID and everything. This last year has been a little slower than usual, but I do this because I love it. I enjoy training, and I get to meet fascinating people like Adam with Defenders USA.
Well, cool. So I'm Adam Lynch, for the folks who don't know me on your side, Dave. But I'm Adam Lynch, Defenders USA. I also recently bought out another company called Crosswind Precision. My background is I grew up as a missionary kid in West Africa, right? So the joke is I'm still trying to learn English, and I'm getting there eventually someday. But grew up over there. When I came back to the U.S., immediately or very quickly ran off to a military college. So think like VMI, West Point Citadel, things like that. Later, joined the U.S. Army as an MP, or a military police officer, which I thought was kind of a cool thing at first. And then after about a year or so, I decided that's kind of boring. So I used that as a springboard to move into things like QRF, ERT, PSD, SRT. So moving into some more tactical stuff, and I truly enjoyed that. Later became a trainer with the Army, and then ultimately became a police officer in Grand Junction, Colorado. So Dave and I are down here in the Phoenix area. So Grand Junction, Colorado is about 30 miles, right dead center of the state from the Utah border. So you're on the western slope of Colorado. So I was a police officer there for about 10 and a half years, almost 11 years. And then there too moved on some TAC teams, so moved to the TAC teams such as the SWAT team. Did that for some years with Street Crimes Unit. Became a trainer for the police department. At some point, I think I moved over to the National Guard, the Colorado National Guard. Really, they just wanted somebody to come in who could train people. So I went in as a trainer, did that for a little bit, and kind of trained everywhere from raw recruits to pretty high end in the military. So kind of training is the background and the passion. I think it really comes from being a missionary kid in Africa. I watched my dad, who started multiple churches and multiple Bible schools, right, in Africa. He had the heart of a teacher. And I think that cultivated in me too. And as a police officer, I saw that a vast majority of the people that I ran into as victims of crime, they could have avoided being a victim of crime had they known a few of the basic skills that we knew as police officers that we employed on a daily basis. And so from there, it kind of became a mission to start helping people. And the real big thing that happened for me was I got a cry for help from a church. They needed some people that could come in and train them. I was a SWAT guy that they knew, so they asked me to come in and train people, and developed a reputation. And next thing you know, I started getting requests to train more and more people. So I started doing this type of training, gun, defensive, situational awareness, you name it, on the side as a cop. And I talk about being run ragged between all the cop stuff and court and then training on the side too. It's just exhausting. But eventually I turned that into a full-time thing, and I've been running Defenders now for full-time since I think 2013. And it's been growing and growing and growing. And I'd say that we're probably the largest, or if not one of the largest, gun training entities in Colorado area between Denver, Salt Lake, and Vegas. And just recently, here in the last couple of months, I moved here to the Phoenix area where Dave's at too. Moved to the Phoenix area, and we're going to be opening up some branches of Defenders down here too. So I guess that's kind of my background here, and I'm excited to be able to finally do this and get to know our audience too, Armed Republic.
And that's still just a short synopsis, because I know that there's dozens of places I've been, dozens of places that you've trained with, that I've trained with, that we haven't mentioned. It's just, to be honest with you, I hate intros. Because it's just,
yes, they're boring.
Like, what's the most important piece that everybody really needs to know? But having said that, the idea behind doing a radio podcast, I think both of us have wanted to do a podcast of some kind for a while.
Yes.
Because I want to touch on more than just. I want to be able to touch on more than just firearms. I want to talk about. I want to be able to talk about faith a little bit. Like, what does the Bible say about self-defense? What is your duty? What is your role, etc. When it comes to the Bible, Scripture? Okay, without improperly introducing that. So I want to be able to talk about some politics that plays a part, because obviously this is our Second Amendment right, and there's all kinds of crazy legislation and stuff going on. There's valuable court cases that are going on, so I want to be able to speak to some of the current events and things like that. So pretty much anything that we don't typically fit in the firearms class. And then you and I are friends with a lot of trainers around the country who we can invite on here as guests to talk about them and what they do and kind of the history of training, because I find that part fascinating. There's a lot of times that something new comes out and then you discover that it's not new, that's been around for a while, and where were you? So this will let us do a lot of other fun stuff. So Adam and I, the way that we originally met was we were going through the Active Self-Protection Instructor Program a couple years ago, and we got to go through the very first training program, and I found it really valuable. It sounded really interesting when John was putting it together, because it was focused more on actual teaching and relating to people and less about guns, because typically when you seek a certification of some kind, number one, it's pretty short. It's only a few days long, and it's almost entirely centered around whether or not you can shoot. And I know lots of people that can shoot who are just horrible teachers, personality-wise and things like that. So John's program sounded really neat because it's focused more on how people learn. And that was a long program. I think it was supposed to last, like 6 months?
Yeah, 6 months because of the COVID shutdown. I think it ran about 9 or 10 months.
Yeah, it ran longer, and it was a ton of fun. And that's when I think getting to hear you speak and hear you teach, I think we kind of really clicked there. And then we got to meet up and work together at the Bullets and Bibles conference, the second one they had in Kansas. And that's where we had a lot of fun. After the day of training, we were sitting around the campfire, and we had some students come over and powwow with us, and then just really super engaging conversation happened around the campfire that night. And then you and I were going over some self-defense tactics and some hand-to-hand combative stuff, and we started getting into
building clearing, vehicle stuff,
stacking up on the door, and we just went right into position. And it was like we were teammates that worked together before in the past, and all of a sudden everything just clicked. It just flowed. So that was kind of funny. So yeah, and that's when we started talking about doing this. Even back then, we were talking about doing a podcast, and it just doesn't make sense. I like to do. My phone's ringing, it's vibrating on the table. I'm like, what the hell is that? Yeah, it was. It just made sense. I doing things solo is great, but being able to have someone else to bounce ideas off of adds value, in my opinion.
Well, and I think the back and forth allows us to bring to our people that are watching here different perspectives, right? There's a few things that I might do that you might not agree with, or you might do it differently, or have a better way to do it, or vice versa. And I like, too, the idea that part of the goal of this whole Armed Republic is to bring in, like you said, the outside people out there who might do stuff radically different than us and can probably even teach us a lot of things, to include our audience. And I think that by that constant refreshing of new ideas, new people, new input, It'll be a great learning tool for everybody else. Hopefully, a very interesting thing, and that we can bring a lot more to it than just gun and gun only, right? Like you talked about the politics of the day, what's going on in our local regions, the happenings in the 2A community or the gun community, but tying it into all sorts of avenues of defense of life, which I think actually includes, your financial security, everything that's out there. And I think as you mentioned, for me too, just like Defenders is a ministry to me more than it is a job. It truly is. I think this too can move into the ministry of, hey, what's the Christian's role or the believer's role in the defense of life? And I think that's something that's not touched on very well in the pulpits of America. It's not even talked about in Bible schools. I spent time in Bible schools because for a while I thought I was called to be a preacher, and thank God he did not call me to preach. Right? Obviously, I shouldn't be doing that. But it's something I found even in our Bible schools not talked about, and I think that's something that needs to be brought to the community of believers out there, and we can help develop that mindset by the type of people we bring in.
Well, and that brings us. I'm sitting here and I'm looking at the shield behind your head, and I'm thinking about the full armor of God while I'm staring at it, and then I've got my reticle right here, my BDC reticle. That's actually the cross.
The cross.
Yeah. So right away, we're pretty much a good fit. But there's so much crazy stuff going on, and so excited to delve into all those various issues and things like that. I'm an NRA certified training counselor in all the disciplines, so I think it'd be cool if we got probably some of the chiefs from the NRA to come on here and talk a little bit about some of the changes and modifications they've made to the NRA instructor training program.
And what's coming.
Because they recently put out some information, and I want to let them describe what's going on. But there's 3 guys, and there's only 3 people in the training headquarters.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so they'll be good people to have on here, and I'll be able to let them speak. We have John Correa with Active Self-Protection, who was a pastor for a long time of a church. And him and I have had some long conversations about, Christianity, firearms, that sort of stuff. And there's some fascinating things him and I have talked about that he's able to point to Scripture about. And so that's been a ton of fun. Because he'll bring out some stuff that you don't typically hear that I didn't know was in the Bible, to be honest with you. There's some swearing and some cursing in there that I was just like, whoa. So, because I kind of have a potty mouth sometimes, and I think, a lot of it has to do with the business that we've been in for so many years. And some of the clientele we've had to deal with.
Clients.
Yeah, I like to refer to them as clients, they're interested in jewelry.
Right.
So, sometimes, and of course that has to do with like what level class you're in. I don't typically misbehave in a beginner class, but I get pretty rowdy in my intermediate to advanced classes.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I've told, I've been interested in maybe being a pastor or something like that, and I read quite a bit in the Scripture. But I like you said, being a minister, because there's I think there's a lot of when dealing with church security, the thing I run into a lot is board members of the churches have a different outlook as to what level of security they want in their church. When I first told people I was doing church security, they're like, "Dude, what kind of church do you go to? Like what bad part of town? Blah blah blah." I was like, "I'm not," but like we have there's 5 terrorist cells right here in Arizona. The guys that did the cartoon thing down in Texas, those guys came from right here in Phoenix, Arizona.
We had to have cells in the Grand Junction area.
So
it doesn't matter where you are in the world. A good place to go attack people in a box somewhere is a church.
Yeah,
it's just how it is.
But there's certain board members and stuff that are like, well, this is God's house and God will protect us. And I'm like, yeah, but faith without works is dead. So yes, if you put in the work, he'll help protect you, defend you, etc. But I felt it a calling coming home after Iraq, 2008. I felt it was necessary in Valley churches, and they already had some pretty good programs going on. But since then, since 2008, look at all the church stuff that's happened. There's South Carolina, several in Texas, Colorado. There's been a lot of incidents at churches that have needed security, and then you had a lot of the work-related violence.
Right.
So we've had kind of a reprieve here for a little while. It seems like it's been rather calm, but now that school started back up again, and that's another program that I'm getting involved in and I'm hoping to bring here. It's coming March 22nd, 2022. We already have a school signed up. We're bringing Faster Saves Lives to Phoenix, Arizona. And so it's already prepaid for. All the teachers have to do is show up, and we provide all the ammunition and everything. It's a kind of like, I would say it's right up there with like the Federal Air Marshal training for 3 days on firearms defense and medical training and how to respond to an active shooter. And so I'm excited to be doing that with TDI out of Ohio. It's kind of like the gun side of the East Coast with Jim Benner, who a lot of folks know from, I believe it's SOG. He makes the knives, or
Yeah,
K-Bar.
good knives.
K-Bar
Great
knives. Yeah. So, funny story. I'm there. I go through the training, went through level 1, went through level 2. I was there for a whole week. And then I told him, I was like, hey, before I leave, I want to grab that particular knife from you. It's a pretty badass knife. He's like, oh, well, just remind me. We'll get you checked out. All right, cool. So we're having dinner on the last night, and we're driving to the airport. And he's like, hey, did you get your knife? I was like, oh, man, I totally forgot. And he's like, here, take mine. And I was like, oh, this is awesome. I was like, I feel like I have to stab somebody with it now just because I have Jim Benner's knife. So much fun, man. So much fun.
Well, cool. I'm glad you're going to be bringing the NRA types here. I've not been a huge fan of the NRA just because I never had much to do with them, and I always saw them as so basic in the beginning. But after going through your NRA instructor course and the NRA concealed carry instructor course, I began to get the flavor of the idea of what the NRA really does. Yeah, it's still shocking to me. There's only three trainers for the entire NRA. They must have a zillion lawyers and a massive marketing department. The 3 trainers. I mean, that's the point of the NRA to me. So as I've seen you work with it, I'm now kind of curious about it. Would like to get to know more about them. Yeah, I have a couple different NRA certifications as an instructor, but I'm glad to get to know them. But to me, the biggest thing is now bringing in the big names out there, right? Anywhere from John Correa to the Tom Givens to the Tim Herons to on and on and on and on. I'd like to bring those guys in and just have good conversations with them about things that can help our audience. So I think between what you and I have to offer and then bringing in these 2 here, this is going to be a dynamic thing that people can really pull a lot from.
Yeah, I've talked a lot to Tim, but it's always been over the internet because he's a car guy, and so I'm a big car guy. I mean, I've always here in Arizona, like being into cars is like air.
You got to cars and guns.
I started working on cars when I was 10 years old, maybe earlier. I fixed. My parents told me if I could fix a car that they'd sell it to me for $1. It's a 1979 Chevy Malibu. I had that fucker running the same day. I was like, here's my $1. Sign that title over. Couldn't drive it until I was 16.
I've got a class coming up with Tim Heron here. Actually, him and AJ Zito up in Prescott, Arizona here in November. So I'm looking forward to that. I've never trained with Tim Heron yet, but I'm really looking forward to it on this one.
Yeah, I hear so much positive stuff. I hear a lot of positive stuff about Tim.
Yeah, so I'm really looking forward. I know AJ a little bit. I've done a little bit of work with him and respect him. So looking forward to that one.
Yeah, I got to work with AJ this last Bullets and Bibles.
Yeah.
It's fun to see him work too.
Same here. Well, I guess that gives kind of an idea for those of you listening where we're trying to go with this, right? I think Dave and I both see this as all encompassing. Yeah, it's gun related, gun flavored, but then moving into the many tentacles or the aspects of the defensive life, and I think that relates to so much that's going on in our world, in our politics, in our supply chains, in our finance, and I think that if we bring in these type of experts that can be far above and beyond what you and I have to offer, where we're just constantly bringing in folks like that. I'm looking forward to where this goes, and I'm hoping it's something that truly keeps people's attention.
Yep. And there's a few people that we'll have to figure out how I can bring them on. But if I can figure out a way to black screen them, just have them be audio,
Yeah, we can do that.
We can bring a few of these characters on, and you guys will get to hear some fun stories from these guys.
And on top of that, I already got contacted last night by a guy that wants to become a sponsor of Armed Radio. And so we're looking for sponsors for this type of thing. Looking for you guys to like, comment, share, spread this out there. And boys and girls, our audio is going to get even better. Our lighting is going to get better. And as we learn to do this, I think that this is just going to grow. And there's already people banging on the door wanting to be a part of this.
That reminds me, too. There's a couple of firearm manufacturer owners that I'm friends with that I would love to have them come on here and talk about their product, because I've had some in-depth conversations with them. And, you know, it's one thing to walk to a store and pick it up and hold it in your hand and kind of compare it to others. But a lot of people don't know, like, really what's been involved.
What goes behind it?
What goes behind it?
Yeah.
I mean,
the
metallurgy.
And the stories.
Yeah, and their design process and how they were thinking about what it was. I mean, because, you know, some people invent something completely new, right? And number one rule in business is that you're fixing a problem. You know, so what is the problem that you're fixing? And there's some people that just take something traditional and they try to make that particular thing better. And then there's people that go all the way back to the drawing board to do it from scratch. And so there's one particular company I'm really excited to bring on here, because that's something that they did, is they went all the way back to the drawing board and started over from scratch. And it's a really amazing firearm. So,
well, I just picked up the one he's talking about, and I can't wait. If those people come, I can't wait to bring those people in here.
Yeah.
Guys, just so you know, for me, I'm a trainer, right? That's my heart, that's my passion, that's my ministry, is making people a lot better for the defensive life here. I know Dave's got that same type of thing. So that's going to be my focus in here, is constantly bringing training to people, and then also at the same time, edutainment.
Edutainment, okay.
Edutainment.
Cool play on words. All right, well, we're going to try and keep these episodes down to around 30 minutes as well. So you guys we're going to try and do these probably weekly. So we'll try and get a bunch recorded today, and then we'll release them over the next coming weeks. So be sure to like, share, follow, comment, get more followers, that sort of stuff. That'll help us get more people interested in wanting to be on the program, etc. And I kind of have a no bullshit approach to, like, when I interview people, I like to know the deep stories. I have no problem asking tough questions and stuff like that. Like a typical conversation would be if you were at a range. I love to get the inside scoop details on stuff, because it's like, oh, that's cool. So, anyway, thanks for joining us.
Take care. Be safe.